Hi there, I'm Seth Olson, Senior Manager of Food Systems here at GreenBiz. Today, I'm happy to be joined by Amy Skoczlas Cole, President of Trust in Food at the Farm Journal. Amy, how are you doing today?
Awesome, Seth. So good to be here with you. Thanks.
I know we have a limited amount of time, so let's dive right in. Could you just explain the role of trust in food in the food transformation movement?
Sure. Trust in Food is a part, as you mentioned, of the Farm Journal company. So, Farm Journal has been around in agriculture for almost 150 years. I think you can think of us as the farmer experts. We know farmers, farmers trust us. And because they trust us and because of our history, we have just enormous amounts of information and intelligence about how farmers are thinking and feeling. So, Trust in Food is about a 5-year-old initiative that Farm Journal launched, recognizing that there was this chasm between folks who eat food and folks who grow food. And what we really needed to do was restore that trust in food. So, what we're really focused on is how do we help farmers, ranchers, growers take the steps that they need to take for more resilient and climate smart growing practices?
Awesome. And obviously, today, the food system is a big driver of climate change, but it's in this unique situation where it also has this opportunity to really help solve this global issue. But a lot of the companies who are advocating for regenerative agriculture and other sustainable production approaches may not fully understand what farmers want. Could you talk to us a little bit about what your research shows in terms of farmers' perspectives on climate smart or regenerative agriculture approaches?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. There is a tremendous amount of eyeballs on what's the American farmer, rancher, growing grower doing today. And there's not a whole lot of understanding about what their operations look like and how they're thinking and making decisions. So that's sort of the gap that we're trying to fill. So some of the work that we have done sort of points to the fact that producers are interested and curious, but also highly skeptical. So, just as one small data point, we did work last year looking at the emerging area of carbon markets and found that 97% of producers shared with us that for one reason or another, and reasons were different, they did not feel comfortable signing up to be part of a carbon market solution yet. Another piece of information that may paint an even broader picture for kind of the hill that we have to overcome together is that right now about 65% of producers share with us that they're really not sure that consumers, the folks who are eating their products, have a right to understand how they are conducting their operations, how they are growing food. And so you've got producers on one hand who are under an enormous amount of stress in terms of how the system has evolved, economic, social pressures such as labor. I mean, there's just an enormous amount of pressure on those 2 million folks who are really feeding the world today. And at the other hand, we've got this enormous opportunity, right? Agriculture is one of the few places where we could start right away with more sort of net positive type of work that not only helps mitigate the footprint of agriculture, but helps us sort of as a bridge as we make energy transitions too.
And so, between all of um, the commitments that are quickly turning into action from the corporate sector, as well as some really historic investments that have been made by the federal government between the Climate Smart Commodities program from USDA and this large pool of funding from the IRA. What do we need to know and ensure to make sure that we are really going to get the most of the impact that is possible for transitioning our agricultural acreages to climate smart and regenerative practices?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to know is that we talk about agriculture like it's a monolith, and it's not. There's 2 million different family farms across America that are really providing the food that we eat, the fuel that we use, the fiber that we're wearing. and exporting those and helping the American economy and world peace, really. Um, and yet we treat them like one big group that is sort of othered. And that's just not okay, and it's not effective. And so one of the things that we do at Farm Journal and Trust in Food is really take all of the data and intelligence that we have about how producers are thinking and making decisions and figure out, how do we apply that to regenerative agriculture acceleration, right? So that might look like being able to segment producers into different kinds of groups. What's your operational goal? How do you feel about risk? What kind of goals and profitability do you have this season? How are you feeling about your ability to make change? So we call this whole area of sort of behavioral science the human dimension of making change. And we really think that it's the missing ingredient. As you mentioned, we have enormous amounts of financial support coming this way, which is important. Things always have to pencil out. We also have a lot of great science and technical assistance on the ground, which is important. But it's this third piece of, you might call them consumer style insights, that allows us to target and meet a grower where they are in their journey and figure out what's next for them, which is really the key to unlocking all of this at scale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such an important point. One of my big kind of talking points is always that we need to have people-centered approaches to solve environmental problems. And farmers are people. We need to have farmer-centric approaches, kind of follow their lead and support them in the ways that they want to be supported in order to drive change. So I'm really excited to know that this data is out there and available for the companies that really want to put the best foot forward and support the people who make their whole businesses possible.
Yeah, I love that way of thinking about it. I mean, we really talk about agricultural change is at its heart human change. So we're totally on the same page with you right there. And understanding with really good science, right? This isn't conjecture, really good behavioral science and data and intelligence. How can we help is really the next step.
Awesome. Well, Amy, I think that's all the time we have for today, but thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to following along in your successes and progress in the future.
Well, thanks for having me, Seth. It's great to have a partnership with GreenBiz.